Hey everyone, HawkZombie here, and today we're going to talk about what I think of the game Crimson Light. Crimson Light was developed and published by Nandi and utilizes the RPG Maker VX Ace engine. The combat system focuses more heavily on stealth than combat, and all enemies are visible on the map. It was originally released on July 28, 2015, and recently re-released on Steam's Marketplace. The version I had for the review is 1.0.1. Here's the description of the game as taken from the Steam page. A peaceful, isolated village turns into one girl's nightmare as she awakens from her slumber to find herself separated from her beloved sister. Join Unelma Ceridus as she wanders through the village while gradually uncovering the truth about its tragic fate. Stumble through the woods in the village, survive all the monstrosities, and get to the bottom of the mystery. Of note, this game is actually a prequel to the game Crimson Shift, which is also available on Steam. Crimson Light starts off interestingly enough. A blonde stranger leaping to his apparent death from the top of a cliff. Okay, nothing strange about that. The protagonist, Unelma, finds him near death and takes him back home to tend to his wounds. However, in a single day, he makes a miraculous recovery and promptly heads right the heck off. That night, Unelma awakens to find her sister is missing and the village has been attacked by a violent unknown force. The note her sister left instructed her to meet at the lake, and you take control of Unelma then to try and survive the night. The story is well written and it certainly holds your attention. The gameplay itself is serviceable. It reminded me of the ABS system, but with the heavy emphasis on stealth, there was, thankfully, minimal combat. I rarely felt like the game was cheap or that parts were too difficult to advance through. There are also multiple endings, depending on choices and events you manage to uncover in the game, so it adds a bit of replayability. Almost all the maps in Crimson Light have a maze-like feel, with enemies patrolling in their set patterns so that they can be, in theory, easily avoided. However, even if an enemy did manage to get a hold of me, I would just find a safe spot to wait until my health recharged. The only real issue I had with the mapping was my need for exploration. It often made me go in circles since each map had multiple paths you could take to reach the same destination. Also, the overlays of fog and color were very well used, and I didn't feel they obfuscated or otherwise interrupted with the map or me getting to my objectives at all. The placement of items along the way, clutter, the interior of the buildings, etc., the layout of the village, felt organic and natural, without too many hang-ups. Crimson Light's story was interesting, although there were a lot of the main bits either waiting for a bigger reveal to be given later on, or just plain hidden for the entire game. More on that in a second. This can lead to some confusion while the story plays out, but I found it more of a slight annoyance than breaking of immersion. Also, mute your video. Trust me, if you don't want spoilers, you can't play the game, mute it right now. The enemies. You come to find out, about a third of the way through the game, that a single character was responsible for all the carnage of the village destruction. However, there are several Shade-type characters walking around trying to kill you. I spoke with the dev and found out that their presence is explained in the next game, Crimson Shift. Since there was not an explanation in this game, however, it was rather confusing and I got hung up on it as I played. Still, other parts of the story were presented well, and the cutscenes were acted out nicely for the most part. Very rarely were we greeted with just talking boxes. The stealth and combat mechanics are fairly straightforward, nothing new here. Line of sight the enemies and run like hell. There is a health bar in the game, and you receive it fairly early on in the form of a katana, which has 2 runes inscribed on it that act as the health bar. 3 strikes and you're out. It does, however, replenish over time. A mechanic that I found particularly interesting, however, and really added a sense of urgency and dread, was the stress meter. It starts light blue and increases until it turns red and resembles a target. At this point, a black character with red accents, red shade if you will, chases very quickly after you with the intent on killing you. However, standing near light sources, candles, and the like brings your stress right down. Even with this enemy randomly bursting out at you like Nemesis chasing after a STARS member, is calling this a survival horror game accurate? For me, it's a bit of a stretch. It's a game with strong horror themes, definitely. I mean, there's gore and very strong story elements that allude towards horror, sure. But personally, I didn't feel stressed out all the time like I would in a survival horror kind of game. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that you can save anywhere. Literally anywhere. So I had that safety net to protect me in case something went wrong. I found the controls in Crimson Light to be quite nice, actually. There is a system in place to be able to use the items on the map screen without having to open up the menu and inventory. Very convenient. And it was easy to use to scroll through the items. Also, eventually you get an ability to fight back, and I found it fun and very reminiscent of Pac-Man. You activate your ability, you go chasing after those who used to chase you, and I may have enjoyed it a little bit too much.
Get him! Get him! Get him! Yes, right. Sons of bitches.
Now the part of the review that you all probably skipped ahead to hear. Do I recommend Crimson Light? I really do, but there is a big but. Do I recommend this as a survival horror game? No, I do not. I feel that the game fell more than a bit short of that goal. And do you want to know why? The saves. Since you can save anywhere, where is the sense of foreboding terror and dread? Okay, I'm going to ask you to ignore that part of the game. Now, look at Crimson Light as a game with just horror elements and a solid mystery. That is the game I am recommending. I generally play and enjoy games that are story-rich, and this one had enough meat to sink your teeth into. Plus, the game is free. Pick it up off Steam, give it a try, just don't expect something akin to Resident Evil or Amnesia. That's what I think of Crimson Light. Thanks for listening.